Eat, sleep, debunk the globe, repeat. Eat, sleep, debunk the globe, repeat. Once you go flat, you don't go back. Got a bunch of globes back at home up in the trash. I'm not even really tripping if I get laughed at, cause everybody here is about to get flat smacked.
Genesis 1:16-17. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. Lesser does not mean smaller, like some translations would suggest. But how do we know that? 1 Enoch 72:36-37. And that which rises is the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as the Lord commanded. As he rises, he so sets, and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is sevenfold brighter than that of the moon. So not bigger, but brighter. Enoch 72:47. The sun's light is 7 times brighter than that of the moon's, but the dimensions of both are equal. Enoch 78:3. These are the two great luminaries, whose orbs are as the orbs of heaven, and the dimensions of both are equal. The sun and moon are separate from the stars. 1 Corinthians 15:41. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory. God seems to say that the sun is different than the stars, and that the moon is also different than the stars, and even so that the sun and moon are different from one another. They are separate from one another in the sense that the moon actually shines its own light, rather than reflecting the light from the sun. Mark 13:24. But in those days, after that tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. Matthew 24:29. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Isaiah 13:9-10. The stars of the heaven and their constellations will not show their light. The rising sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. Have you ever considered the fact that the moon does not have a hot spot? So, what I mean by that is, when you shine a light on a reflective surface of a ball, there's a hot spot. But when you look at the moon, which is supposed to be a ball and also supposed to be reflective, there's never a hot spot. The light is always evenly distributed. Even if only half the moon is lit, it's evenly distributed light. Let me show you what I mean. People admit that the sun shines its own light. They also admit that the stars shine their own light. So why is it so impossible that the moon would also shine its own light? Is it just that you've been told that the moon doesn't shine its own light? Ezekiel 32:7. And when I extinguish you, I will cover the heavens and darken their stars. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon will not give its light. Do we need further proof that the moonlight is different than the sunlight?
The NASA Technical Report servers are back at it again. In this public document from the Lunar and Planetary Science Conference in 2009 at the NASA Johnson Space Center, NASA.gov gives another nod to an aspect of creation we weren't taught about in school. The paper is titled Photon Luminescence of the Moon and begins by explaining that luminescence is typically described as light emitted by objects at low temperatures. Although the author continues on to describe a photon luminescence induced by galactic cosmic rays, he concludes the introduction by stating that the information derived here demonstrates that the moon literally glows in the dark when there is no sunlight or earthshine. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to conclude that this report is referring to the moon as self-illuminating and emitting a light at low temperature. This sort of phenomenon isn't unfamiliar to God's creation. The Department of Entomology and Nematology at the University of Florida explains, fireflies produce a chemical reaction inside their bodies, allowing them to light up through a process called bioluminescence. And, unlike a light bulb, which produces a lot of heat in addition to light, a firefly's light is cold. Apart from the consistent message of the Bible describing the moon as a light, is there another way we can confirm this cold luminescence from the moon? Here is a compilation of independent experiments testing the temperatures of moonlit surfaces compared to shaded surfaces. Keep in mind that in sunlight, we know the shade is much cooler. Check it out.
Okay, here we are. There's the moon. There's the side that's in the moonlight. 37 degrees in the moonlight. 47 degrees in the not moonlight. So what is that? There's nothing covering over top of this. It's just sitting right out here in the open. One side's in the moonlight, one side's not. So how, if that moon's reflecting sunlight, is it reflecting cold light? Moon shadow, moonlight, moonlight, moon shadow.
Moonlight test. Got a plain piece of cardboard, piece of aluminium. As you can see, the moon is 95% tonight. Test in the shade of the concrete is about 11 and a half. And the light, about 9. Final test for the cardboard in the shade, about 7 degrees. And in light, about 3 aluminium in the shade, 8 degrees Celsius. In the light, pretty much 0.
Moon shade 7.0, moonlight 6.2. Let's go over here. Moonlight 5.8, moon shade 6.7.
It's the Moonlight Cools experiment once again. Second time, our beaming moonlight. We have our T-post driver. We have box which has been shading it from the moonlight. This time we have a infrared thermometer. Should be a little more accurate. Let's see what we get this time. Alright, the exposed side is reading 37.9. Let's go ahead and start moving that towards the side that has been shaded. Let's climb. Hold that. 42.6.
The earth does not orbit the sun. Psalm 104:5. You fixed the earth on its foundation, so it can never be moved. 1 Chronicles 16:30. Tremble before him, all the earth. The world is firmly established. It cannot be moved. For more information about how the earth does not revolve around the sun, check out my Pillars of the Earth video. The sun and moon actually move above the earth. Psalm 19, 4-6. Their line has gone out into all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he has placed a tent for the sun, which is like a groom coming out of his chamber. It rejoices like a strong person to run his course. Its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit is to the other end of them, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. Definition of circuit in Hebrew: a revolution, course, lapse. Coming around, circuit of time or space, or a turning. Joshua 10, 12-13. Then Joshua spoke to the Lord on the day when the Lord turned the Amorites over to the sons of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon at the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, until the nation avenged themselves of their enemies. Ecclesiastes 1:5. Also, the sun rises and the sun sets, and hurrying to its place, it rises there again.